What is going on, guys? I just sat down. I had to go run and get a message from my son, but it is time for Friday Night Live. All right. Goodness gracious, it's already Friday. This week went by so fast. I've been out fishing finally. My hands still hurt. My wrist still hurts pretty bad, but I wear a brace and wear this brace right here. And it goes pretty good. I just suck it up and drive on, I guess. What's up, Al Bassett? How are you? Oh, goodness. Steve Potts, Melody Coffin. I think that's how you say your name. What's going on? Oh, man, I got some cool things to show you. I left them out in my truck. Jordan's running in to go get them. But we just put a new motor guide on one of my kayaks. We're kind of goofing around. And you'll see pictures of it here in a little here is soon. But yeah, we put a motor guide trolling motor with the pinpoint GPS anchoring system on it. It's pretty cool. We'll go test it out tomorrow, see if it really works. So what's going on? Naranda Dawkins, how you doing? Dave Neal, Justin Camage. What's up? Man, oh man. And if you guys are joining me from any of my podcasts, welcome. Thanks for listening. I hope you're not driving too far today, but my podcast, for those of you who don't know, are this is ends up being on my podcast. It's on several different sites except for iTunes, I believe. It's the only one that's not on. So I need to go ahead and apply for that. I just haven't done it. Man. Goodness. Matt Fleming says, I feel that I pulled my Achilles pedaling my yak 8 hours a day for the last 6 days. You probably have. Oh my goodness. I can't pedal what I call egg beaters. You know, the old egg beater that you had to wind to. Anyway, I can't pedal those kayaks. I can either do a Hobie or I just can't pedal at all. My hip, I don't know when I hurt it, back in the Army sometimes, I don't know. But there's certain things that I can't do. And if it hurts my hip, it's literally 2 to 3 weeks to recover. I tried it when we were testing the Jackson pedal drive. I was a day pedaling and I was out for 2 weeks. It really sucked. But yeah, so a lot of people can do it, and they're great to have a pedal kayak. I hope Bonafide eventually one day comes out with them, because I wouldn't mind having it. But I sure like my Torpedo on the back. Jordan's bringing in 2 rods. Hold on a second. Try not to break them. I have not gotten permission from 13 to show you guys these new rods and reels, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just put it in the corner and shut the door. He's trying not to break them. My office is pretty tight. So, but yeah, it's been a pretty good week anyway. So let me see how everybody else is doing. Hey, Jordan, hand them to me so I don't have to get up and go get them. He just put them in a corner and walked away. And I said, put them in the corner, shut the door so you can get them over here. All right, we'll lean them right here and talk about them later. All right, man, I appreciate all the comments and everything else. Big Dog Gibson, thanks for the $10, brother. He says, go Dogs. Oh, man. So I hope we play football this year. We're getting there. But let me tell you a little bit about this week. I am finally able to fish several days for a KBF challenge series. I fished it last month, but only got 2 days of fishing in. Ended up finishing 12th, I believe, out of 44 boats. This month I'm doing pretty good. I'm in the lead currently with 98 inches, I believe, or no, something like that. I have to look. Matter of fact, I can look right here while I'm talking to you guys. But it is, I'm pretty excited. Let me see where I'm at. I'm at 94 1/4 inches is where I'm sitting. So all 19 inches. I got to break that 20-inch mark. So, oh, man. When's the best time to use a pink worm? I'm using one right now. You can use one from now all summer long. If you have a spotted bass, you can use them all year. Spotted bass, for some reason, love pink worms. So, pretty exciting. So the water temperature here in Georgia, to give you guys kind of an idea, so if it does get that way for you, the water temperature right now is between 75 and 85. The lake I'm fishing on is 80 to 85 degrees, pretty warm, warmed up pretty quick. And the fish have already moved out offshore. They're on drops, they're on points, they're following creek channels. You see the bait fish out deep, and the bait fish are moving along the edges of the creek channels, and the bass are sitting there just feeding on them as they're coming by. So that's kind of what's going on. You just kind of, for me, I've just had to match their mood. Most of the time, they don't want to go very far. You got to throw and drag something, a jig, a Texas rig, a Carolina rig. But when they're feeding, you can catch them on a swim bait, bullshad swim bait, stuff like that. I couldn't catch one in my video that I launched this morning. Sorry, guys, but that kind of happens. I really wasn't expecting to be able to catch one in that video. But anyway, so I'm kind of excited. This is my best month of the year for big fish. I always catch giants in June for some reason. I just love that they get offshore and then and they're still feeding. So, oh man, if there was one lure that I needed, if there was one lure I needed to get right now, what would it be? From now until late September, October here in the South, I'm going to be throwing soft plastics most of the time. Worms, and more worms, just different sizes depending on the rig that I'm fishing. Also, a jig works for the next little while. And then deep diving crankbaits. If you're looking for something like a hard bait, something that goes between 8 and 16 feet, and you'll be fine. But just don't get crazy like I did. I've got hundreds and hundreds of crankbaits because I thought I was good at it. I'm still learning. Every year the bass show me something different. So let's see. Hey Gene, hope the wrist is doing better. It's a little bit better. Watched probably all your frog videos, all old and new. Any tips on frog fishing times and conditions that you would shy away from throwing a hollow body frog? If there's no cover, shallow, I'm not throwing a hollow body frog. I'm throwing a buzzbait. If they've got cover, grass, wood, anything else, you can throw a frog around it and get bit. Early morning, late in the evening, before the sun hits the water good, they'll be up shallow, they'll be feeding. That's the best time for any kind of top water. And then if you've got real thick vegetation, real thick grass and that kind of stuff, you can fish all day long because there's a lot of shade under there and the bass are going to hang out. So that's the best times. It's ATL Clutch. How would you do offshore fishing with traditional 2D sonar? I'm intimidated to fish deep. I did it for years with 2D sonar, and it's just a matter of knowing my biggest tool when I'm using 2D sonar are 3 marker buoys. So I'll be up shallow or I'll be deep, but we're going to talk shallow. I'm shallow and I'm coming out towards a creek channel. I'm looking at the map. I know where the creek channel almost is. Just as I start to drop into the creek channel, I drop a buoy outside the boat. And then I'll turn around and I'll come back up and I'll go 50, 60 yards down and I'll come up. And as I get to the top, I'm going to drop another marker buoy to give me a visual line. Then I'm going to go around and I'm going to either fish it shallow to deep or deep to shallow. I'll do the same thing with points, mark the top of the points all the way out to deep water. That's how I visualize. I'm a very visual type person. So I use the traditional 2D just to find the depths, and those marker buoys are a must. I still use them to try to keep myself in one spot. If I'm fishing out in the middle of nowhere and I want to keep my boat still and there's really nothing to orient myself to, I will drop a marker buoy out and just keep my boat close to that marker buoy. So, Outlaw Morgan. What's going on, my brother? He says just spent $3,000 on the 3D system. I tried to catch your Instagram live today, but I couldn't. I was in the middle of installing a trolling motor onto a kayak. Matthew Rutledge, brother, thanks for the $20 Man, I love you guys that donate. That's so awesome. You don't have to, but it's so awesome. Ever catch a fish on a wee shaped crankbait? No, I haven't. I have caught a fish on a number 2 pencil before, but never caught one on a wee shaped crankbait. Oh man, that's funny. that's worth the $20 right there. Kyle Scarborough, thanks for the $5, man. He says, looking to replace my 7'6" ducket, medium, heavy, moderate. I broke last week. What rods would you recommend from 13 Fishing? There are so many options. Just wait a few weeks. Like I said, I tried to ask permission and nobody got back from me, back to me. So this is it upside down? It's upside down. Let me see if I can do this without breaking something. This rod right here is the Fate V3, brand new, coming out on the market here in a few weeks with the Concept C on it. My son calls it the, what is it? The Stormtrooper rod. But if you guys can see that, that is so flipping awesome. But anyway, that, if you like white rods, that's the new one from 13 Fishing. It's a different color than duckets. It's a pearl instead of just a plain white. I don't know if it's going to change colors in the sun or anything else. I don't think so. Not bad, but most whites, you have a little bit of color change. But it's a beautiful rod. Great actions. I've only had them for a day, so 24 hours is all I've fished it. So give me a few weeks to really test it out. But man, they're gorgeous, and I love fishing them. So hope that answered your question. Thanks for the $5, man. Just wait. We got new rods and reels coming out. Announced at ICAST. I'm not sure when all the rods and reels are going to be launched. New baits coming out, all kinds of stuff. Whoo, there's my shameless plug for my sponsor. Here we go, Outlaw. He coughed. He's got Rona. No, I've got probably got mildew in this basement because it flooded this winter. So that may be it. Knucklehead. Dwayne Anderson, what tips do you have for river fishing that differ from lake fishing? The biggest thing is current breaks, because lake fishing, they have current breaks if there's wind or if there's a little water flowing through it. But you have current seams. You have a lot of water running. It'll run in an eddy, and there's always a seam that runs between that fast water and water that's going the other direction. And they love to sit in those seams. Biggest thing is almost go study a trout. I know there's a trout fisherman out there that's made a couple of videos on how to read water. You almost want to do that, is to read those or watch those videos on how to read current, how to read water. And same thing applies for bass as it does trout or any other predatory fish in the river. So, and the rod's not green. Hey, another cool thing is the Fate Black, which is this one right here, which is actually black. Is going to be $80. So they dropped the price of the Fate Black. The V3 is going to be $100. So that's so awesome. And they feel so good right now. Give me a little bit to go beat them up, but I know Ricky. I know how picky he is about rods. I know how he loves to build them and design them and everything else. And so I know they're going to be good. Lindsay Spain, we've caught only 1 to 3 small fish each time for the last 4 weeks. Throwing everything at all parts of the lake. Been tough on the lake in southeast Texas. I haven't been catching a lot of fish. I caught some good ones today, just not a whole lot. What I've found, once the water temperature gets above 75 degrees and into the 80s, hold on a second. Okay, we'll get to that one in a second. But once it gets up to into those higher temperatures, you almost got to fish slower. Try 2 different speeds, really slow or really fast. And you'll get reaction bites or you'll get feeding bites. I've been catching all my fish the last 2 days in 80+ degree water, literally crawling my bait. I'm 4 or 5 minutes a cast is how slow I'm fishing. I don't know many people that can do it. I don't know how I do it, but I've been whooped too many times by my friends in the back of my boat or in the front of my boat by them fishing slower than me. So I don't let it. I have to fish. I just have learned how to slow down. So, oh goodness. Outlaw Morgan says, when are we fishing and smoking some meats? We should do a fish camp fish. Oh man, dude, we need to. I was gonna come back down, but the whole COVID crap kind of stopped me from going down to Florida. But dude, we're gonna get together. I promise. I really want to do it. I have 2 Boston butts sitting right there in my freezer. I smoked 2 last week. Man, we're gonna have a good old time. Man. Let's see. When does the price change hit? The price change will hit when the new rods hit the market. What's a good spinning rod that you recommend? The first one I always get is a medium. It's 7 foot, 7'1" medium spinning rod. That's good for shaky heads. It's somewhat good at drop shot. I like a medium light for drop shot, but it will work. It'll work for a lot of different things, and I just like it. It's just a really good rod, and you can really set the hook good on them. So that's definitely what I'd look at first if it's your first spinning rod. Kayak fisherman here. How do you handle giant patches of lily pads? Do you pick them apart with 100,000 casts in midst of them, or just stick to the edges? I start with the edges, and I'll work a few feet in, unless I see something further in that tells me that the bass are there, whether a blow up or shad swimming through way back in the back. And then I'll get back in there, and it's literally horizontal fishing, or vertical fishing, not horizontal fishing, vertical fishing. And I'm dropping it down, shaking it a few times, bringing it back out, dropping it down, shake it, bring it back out, not retrieving it to me because it gets hung up. Unless I got a frog, and then I'll just have fun. Oh, man. Can you explain how the weather throughout a day affects the bite? Warming, cooling, cloudy, windy, rain, sun direct overhead. I'm going to give you the nuts and bolts of it. Early in the morning, a lot of fish are shallow. I still think some fish are deep and feed deep all night long, but a lot of fish are really shallow. The sun hits the water, it moves the bait. Okay, so it moves the bait, and the bait will pull out into the middle of the creek channel. And as the sun gets higher and higher, they'll be out in the middle of the creek channel, moving up and down. The bass are going to follow, and they follow out, and they're like deer hunters. You know, a deer hunter sets up a deer stand and waits for the deer to come by, and then pow, bye-bye deer. So the bass are the same way. They find a spot, end of a point, on a drop, right on the creek channel, and maybe a shallow part of the creek channel along a ditch, and they wait for that ball of bait fish to come by, because there's lots of balls of bait fish, and they come out and they grab it and they come back in, and they love to hang it at that spot, but they get deeper and deeper throughout the day, and by 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, they're already out on their outside spots. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Rain, it poured down rain today. No thunder, no lightning, so the fishing stayed good. I think that thunder and lightning puts a little bit of a scare in them, and it tends to stop the bite. But if there's no lightning, I'll fish all day long and catch them. Now, I have caught them during thunderstorms, but it was because it had been raining for 2 or 3 days and thunderstorming, so they had gotten used to it. So Nicole Enix, how you doing? Thanks for the $5. I really appreciate it. You guys, like I said, who donate, you don't have to, but I do appreciate it. It definitely does help. She says, I have a Tokyo rig 2/0 offset hook, okay, and can't get any soft plastics to stay on the hook. What would be the best to use? 2/0 offset hook. They have an extra wide gap hook that really works with the Tokyo rig. Another thing that works is, what do they call them? If you put the worm, gosh, yeah, I'm gonna give you that technique because it's probably the easiest. If you put the worm all the way up over the eye of the hook, and you take some really heavy, we use monofilament, like 25, 30-pound monofilament, but just a little piece, or anything that's plastic that's not going to damage your line, but you stick it through the worm into the eye of the hook, and then you cut it off on both sides. So it's literally going through the eye of the hook and holding that worm on there. Another thing is a little bit of super glue. You can try that and see how long it holds on. So Oh my goodness. Ed Wolf, thanks for the 10 bucks, brother. Say, hey, Fluke, my toddler and I are watching. Lots of love to you, buddy, and your content. If anyone wants a good kayak, check out a Bonafide. I still love mine. Man, I love mine too. I was thinking that today as I was hauling in some giants. So goodness. Tyler Sexton, another 25 bucks, man. You are so awesome. Thank you, man. He says, hey, Gene, would you use a 7-foot medium cranking ducket casting rod for a Spro rock crawler 55? Yes, is exactly what I would use. You get a lot of really vicious strikes, and a lot of times, if you have too stiff of a rod, the bass will, it almost seems like the bass hit it and it just pops out of their way because your rod doesn't have any give to it. So yeah, that would be a really good one. The duckets are usually pretty limber. So, oh goodness, let me go back up and catch some of these comments that I missed. How do you keep GoPros from overheating? It's killing me. Change your settings. Get rid of the pro settings. You don't need those. I shoot 1080p at 24 to 30 frames a second, sometimes 30. But it's your processing. You got too much stuff going on, and it will overheat. So the best thing to do is just get rid of your pro settings. Go to basic shooting. I shoot mine. Mine are on looping, and I'll run them all day long, and they never overheat. So it's that dang pro setting, and shooting it in 4K will kill you. It will burn up a camera. So COVID has me sleeping in late. Any tips? It has my son sleeping in late too. I think he got up at like 1 o'clock this afternoon. Any tips for evening bank fishing compared to morning bank fishing? See, morning bait fishing, I would look at more shallow stuff or more flat stuff. When you throw it out, it doesn't sink very far. But at night, the bass, but by the time the sun's about to go down, the bass are just barely getting out of that deep water. So go focus on the steeper banks in the lake, and they'll come up, and wherever the steeper banks meet some type of shallow, like a point or anything else, that's usually a key spot. But anywhere along those steep banks. Yeah. Hi, I'm Zach from Frogaholic. Oh, I'm a Frogaholic. Sorry. How do you decide between frogging pads or pitching and flipping? If they won't hit a frog, I flip and pitch, but I'm going to try a frog first every stinking time. That's how I decide. I give it 20, 30, 40, 100 casts with a frog, and I'll switch back and forth throughout the day to keep myself honest. But that's usually what I do, Zachary. Thanks for the comment, man. I love frog fishing. Sean Lay, what's going on, man? He says, hi, Gene. Do you think a regular trolling motor would work on SS 127 instead of a Torpedo? I just mounted a motor guide. What is it? What is it called? My mind just went blank. SI3 or something like that. But anyway, I just mounted one on a Bonafide like 20 minutes before I stepped in here to do this. And it works, and it's not hard to do. It took me about an hour. I had to run to the hardware store, pick up some washers. But it took me about an hour. So it was really, really easy. I'm going to do a video on it. I'm going to do the same thing to another kayak, and I'm going to do a video on it here in the next few months. I have to get the okay for a motor guide. But yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing. Let's see. S&S Outdoors. I'm marking fish in 30 to 40 feet of water. What technique should I use? I usually use a drop shot because I can get over top of them and not scare them. And that's usually, if they're 30, 40 feet deep, drop shot all day long, or a jigging spoon. But I like a drop shot in the summertime. Hey, Fluke, shad spawn I'm from South Central Iowa and had a Tuesday night tourney. I noticed the shad spawn was terrible. Only 9 fish caught out of 34 people. How do you fish a lake like that? Typically, the best shad spawn is the best in the morning. At night, it doesn't usually get really good until 10, 11, 12 o'clock, somewhere around there. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find where the bass are staging along the shad areas where they're going to be anyway. But I'll start pitching outside dock posts, or I'll start pitching points that are close to hard, rock or bluff walls or anything that they'll spawn on. That's typically what I do. So Let's see. Family Unlimited. Thanks for the 25 bucks. Holy cow. He said, we just got a bona fide SS127 all because of you. How can we help make sure they know what a great job you're doing for them? Call them and do me a favor. Since they're so backed up, say, please, please make Gene's red kayak so he can come pick it up. Now they're really backed up because of COVID, and they're making them like crazy. So I have no clue when I'm going to get my new boat. I'm still fishing my old one, which is fine. I'd rather fish it because it's all set up and rigged up. But yeah, I've got a red one on order. I just don't know when I'm going to get it. But best thing to do is just call them and let them know. It's awesome. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. Oh goodness. Backlash Bassin. I love that name. Hey Gene, I'm fishing out of a Tamarack angler and don't have any electronics. What's a good way I can figure out the bottom? I know there's grass. I always figured out the bottom with like a jig or a Carolina rig, and I would count them down. And it doesn't matter how many feet. Literally, when you don't have a fish finder, who cares about feet? How many seconds does it take to hit the bottom? And so I count them in seconds. And that's basically all I do is I want to know what it's doing. If I'm casting out here, how many seconds does it take to hit the bottom? If I cast over here, how many seconds is it going to take to hit the bottom? And kind of gauge that and kind of keep all that in my head. Kind of tough, but I did it for years and it can be done. So Alondri's Media. Hey, Gene, thanks for the videos. Have you any experience with the concept A3? Thinking of buying it for muskie fishing. It's perfect for muskie fishing. I'll give you a little, the A3, the catalog says it's got 32 pounds of drag. The reason they put 32 plus, the reason they put 32 plus is because 30 plus. The only reason it says 30 plus is because nobody would believe it has 42 pounds of drag. It does. You crank that sucker down, 42 pounds of drag. I fished one today with a big 9-inch bull shad. Didn't catch anything on it, but a 9-inch bull shad. And it's just a really good big fish, big bait, holds lots of heavy line reel. So I like it. So, how do you fish floating docks? They're not my favorite to fish. I love post docks. But you always got to imagine those fish are not on the bottom unless there's a brush pile under there. If there's a brush pile on the bottom, they will be down there in that brush pile. But if they're not, if there's a fish there, they'll be up underneath the floats. And so a spinner bait, a crankbait, anything that stays up in the water column that you can work along the edges or get up underneath those floats, and you probably could catch them pretty good. A flutter spoon works too. But yeah, that's only difference. You know, like I said, if there's a tree or brush pile under there, they're going to be in the tree. David Fry brought the Outlaw by perception for the wife. Not bad for the money. Not as good as my Bonafide. It is a good boat though. I messed around with that one last year a little bit. It's my first boat was a perception. I like I said, only paddled it twice because it was a sit on top with, and it hurt my back because it didn't have a seat in it. So I need one that has a seat. Thanks to the United States Army, I've got a really bad back. I'm glad you guys, they don't have to do sit-ups anymore. They only have to do crunches, I believe. Ed Wolf, I'm looking for some budget ideas for electronics from a Bonafide. Any ideas under 300? The Lowrance series, what is it called? The something 2 by Lowrance. Those are really simple to use, and everybody that has them has loved them. Somebody in here will jump in and tell you what it's called, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they're really good. All right, that's right. I take a breath. Adam Fetterman, what is the best way to fish in the wind and what to use? My favorite things to cast into the wind are lipless crankbaits. Some spinner baits that have smaller blades, because the spinner bait, well, you'll have issues no matter what you do with a spinner bait. You'll have them every once in a while, but it still works good. But just something that cuts through that wind really good. Topwater spook, that kind of thing. And you just work it back erratically and you'll catch them any time of the year when there's heavy wind and it's blowing the water really good. You can catch them real good on some type of a moving bait. Don't throw a lipped crankbait. Don't throw a please don't throw a shad wrap or any kind of a Rapala balsa bait, because you'll backlash every single time. Texas rig works, any kind of worm you want to drag, so you should be just fine. Let's see. Caleb Ross asked, what 13 spinning reels do I recommend? I'm not sure. I don't know what they're coming out with here shortly. Right now, the what is it called? The Creed GT and the Creed K are the ones I'm using right now that I really like. My sons use those. They're pretty good. They're inexpensive. They're aluminum, and they're one of those that are inexpensive, but it'll last you a long time. So if you're going to do any saltwater fishing, don't fish the GT. Use the K or one of the other ones. The GT will get way too much salt in it, and it's not saltwater rated. I don't know if the K is or not, but it's one of those. I've used them and just rinsed them real good when I'm done, and I haven't had any problem with them. So, hey, Gene, been killing them on the weightless fluke on the outside of weed edges. Thanks for the tips. Golly, man, I wish I could get into a good fluke bite. That would be awesome. Swampland, thanks for the $5, man. He says, when are you going to come down here and show me how to break down this swamp? I live 5 minutes from Greg Hackney and can't get him to say hello on social media. Woo! I don't think he's much of a social media guy. He's a great guy, a real nice guy, one-on-one. I just don't know if he's a good one of the. I don't think he stays long on social media, but that'd be fun, man. I need to get back down there to Point of Shane and fish for redfish. You're gonna have a hard time dragging me away from there, so it's gonna be tough. And when I get down there with redfish in my kayak, I absolutely go nuts. So a hook 2, that's what it's called. Thanks, Alan. That fish finder we were talking about a minute ago, a hook 2. Recently bought a Frontier 12 because I am a big boy, and I was wondering, would it be better to buy a fish finder or a trolling motor first? Depends on how much you want to paddle, I guess, because a trolling motor is something I don't ever go without unless I'm fishing always, unless I'm fishing things that are super shallow all day long, and I'm not going to need it anyway. But that's tough to say. I have both, but yeah, that's up to you. It all depends on whether if you like to paddle or not. So, let's see. Do you have any videos on new moon, full moon, and how it has an effect? I don't have one on how it's because I don't know. I really don't. I fish whenever I can fish. I didn't think I'd have a good day today because it's a full moon, but I had a really good day today. I caught a limit, and I limited good ones. I got a couple of big fish that I caught to help bump me up in the KBF challenge tournament that I'm fishing. But yeah, I don't know, man. Got a chance to go fishing with Chad, waiting to work out the details. Wish you could join. That would be a good day. That would be fun, man. It all depends. I've got a pretty busy summer already filling in, but if I could come and fish with you, that'd be awesome. Are you coming to Virginia next week for the Potomac KBF? I'm not. I'm going to be in North Georgia trout fishing with my family. Me and my niece and her kids, my brother-in-law and his kids, and my younger brother and his kids were all going up and going trout fishing. So, do you like the Abu Garcia Black Max bait caster? I haven't fished the Black Max since, I guess it's been 5 or 6 or 7 years. So, the new one I don't know anything about. It was an okay beginning reel, but it doesn't last long. Like I said, this was years ago. I don't know what new components are on the inside, but it really didn't last long back then. So don't take my word for it. It could be a totally different reel. Let's see. Oh man, scum frogs and jitterbugs kicking butt at night. My Tackle Tuesday video this next week, if I can get it filmed before we leave, is going to be on baits for night fishing and rigs and that kind of stuff. I've been thinking about it for the last 2 days, trying to get it all in my head before I do it. Can you please wish my friend a happy birthday? Her name's Olivia Ware. Olivia, happy birthday. That's awesome. You're never as old as you think you are. I still recommend the Concept Z. Bought 2, and they are awesome. I can't wait to try out the new one. They did not send me one of the new Zs. I don't know what that little switch is that they've got, little thumb switch. It's something, I don't know what it does. So I haven't asked any questions either. Maybe that's my fault. Fluke, I pulled out my OG Lose BV1NG for cranking. Oh my goodness. So guys, if you ever get a chance to try out the old Lose cranking reels, they were the David Fritz style cranking reels. They don't have an anti-reverse bearing. So you'll be reeling, and when you stop, and you can literally take the handle backwards about a 3/4 or half a turn before it sets. But yeah, those things are awesome. They last forever. Hey, Fluke, what are your summer baits and lures? I do use, and do you use spinner baits right now? I like to put a raid swimmer as a trailer. I use spinner baits right now if I've got wooded cover and shallow cover that I can bump it off of, just because it never gets snagged. That and a square bill. But usually I'm out deep and I'm dragging something, jigs, worms, Carolina rigs, Texas rigs, drop shot, anything I can get close to the bottom or close to structure or changes in the bottom. When the bass get out on the ledges, I'm going to be throwing the same thing. I don't like to throw flutter spoons. I don't like to do that kind of stuff. I'm going to be throwing something I'm dragging on the bottom. That's what I have confidence in, I guess. So how's the new motor guide working out so far? He's talking about I'm pretty sure you're talking about the Tour Pro. I've got the Motor Guide Tour Pro on my big boat, on my Alumacraft, and I love it. That thing, okay, so I loved the Minn Kota Ultrex. The Minn Kota Ultrex, I want you to imagine like this. It keeps you in a spot about 20 feet, 10 feet either direction. So 20 feet, it'll keep you in a spot about like that. Sometimes closer depending on the wind and stuff and everything else. The Motor Guide keeps you in like a 5 yard or 5 foot circle. It's nuts. It senses when you're beginning to get out of the way, and it will trick you. It'll take you back. I love this, what they call it, the pinpoint anchor. It's amazing. It is absolutely, yeah, I love it, man. How do you drag a small plastic like a tube? I've got one tied on right here. Hold on a second. This is what I was fishing with today. I do not have enough room to do this in this office. All right. So this, I have a EWG. This is actually an owner EWG, and it's got a little bit of it's got a keeper on it. It's hard for me to show you this. I don't want to tear up this tube. Okay, I got the tails were, nope, these aren't dipped in JJ's. This must be Jordan's. Yeah, this is the one Jordan was fishing. Mine, the one in my truck is got some JJ's dipped on it. But the sinker right here that I'm using is a 3/8 ounce sinker. Okay, and what I do, and actually this is a Hog Tech 1 ounce or 3/8 ounce sinker that I'm testing. It's a new shape that I'm testing. But anyway, I like to jerk it and let it fall back down, and jerk it, let it fall back down on the slack line. If they're not biting that way, I'm dragging it, and I'm dragging it super slow. I'm trying, and I like to have the weight on the outside of the bait, mainly so I can feel the bottom. I want to be able to feel whether I'm going through rocks and stuff like that, because as soon as I hit something like a rock or a tree, I'm going to shake it a little bit, and I'm not going to move it much. So having that tungsten on there, being able to feel the bottom a lot better, is how I do it. I hate putting the weight inside the tube. I just can't feel squat. I feel like I'm fishing in the mud all day long, and I want to know if I'm on hard bottom. So I'll give you, for instance, yesterday I was fishing a roadbed, and I threw it out across the roadbed. It sank down about 10 feet, or yeah, about 10, 12 feet. Get and it's mucky down there, real muddy. And you wouldn't feel anything, And as you're coming up that roadbed, you get to the edge, and it's an asphalt road. And you'd get to the edge of that asphalt, and you'd feel it. You'd feel that you were hitting that rock, and you'd literally I just sit there and shake it on the corner of that asphalt, and the bass, and it's about 8 feet deep, and that's where I was getting bit, and just sitting there shaking it, and then drag it a little bit more, and there's some more rough stuff on the top. So I hope that helped. I kind of got way off on a tangent. Holy cow, David Fields, man, my brother. Oh goodness, thanks for the $25, man. He said, "What's up, bud? Hope Hope Tiffany and the kids are keeping you straight. Still waiting on your waypoints for the hill. Keep it up, dude. I need to give you my crappy waypoints for Clark's Hill. I've been offered thousands of dollars for those suckers. I spent 2 years finding trees, and it's a winter, December, January, February type crappie fishing. So, or sorry, crappie fishing. But yeah, man, thanks for the $25, brother. I do need to give you those points. I need to find. I got them on my. Actually, I got them on my computer that's underneath here. I'm fishing a Texas rig right now with a green pumpkin soft plastic worm. Fishing a man-made pond that maxes out at 5 foot. Any advice on how to get bites? Haven't gotten a bite all day. You're the man. Fishing, okay, this is how I would do it. I know this, the bottom is going to be nice and soft. You're throwing a Texas rig. It's getting down on the bottom and it's sinking into that silt that's on the bottom. And the bass can't get to it. It's literally being buried by the silt. No matter how much you drag, it's just going to stay down in that silt. You can go really, really light, like an 1/8 ounce weight in front of your Texas rig, or you can go to a Ned rig, throw it out, let it get to the bottom, and then just lift your rod up a little bit and start to reel very, very slowly. Shaking, you can shake your rod a little bit if you want to, really slow. And it looks like a minnow swimming just off the bottom, and you'll get bit. I think the problem is it's just sinking. Your Texas rig is sinking in. Let's see. How's your Cinco fishing going, Gene? Any luck? No, I'm working on the tube. I haven't gone that far yet. Let me wait. I told you I was going to work on a tube and a Cinco. I'm going to work on the tube first. I'll get to the Cinco. I don't know. Y'all are holding me to it. 3 guys, I got a Concept Z on my Dobbins Fury rod. I have yet to try it out. That sounds pretty cool, man. What pound fluorocarbon do you suggest for a bait caster for all around use? 12. If it's a medium heavy bait caster, I might go 15. But I set the hook like a beast. And so, at least not right now. Well, not right now with my arms the way they are. But usually I do. And so I used 15, but 12 or 15. Hey, Fluke, thanks for all the help. Any suggestions? Fishing reeds from a float tube. Oh, man, I used to do that. That was the first thing first boat I ever owned was a float tube. Had a good day in Utah, caught 4 nice largemouth in the 1.5 to 2 pound range. Fishing reeds. Get a creature bait, and your water stays pretty cold out there. I'd get something like a rage bug or some type of a creature bait and flip it into those reeds and just hop it a few times, pull it out. Flip in and hop it a few times and pull it out. If you live up in the northern part of Utah, I'm actually going to be visiting my brother in Logan next month, middle of next month, and the Kayak Bass Fishing Club that's in Utah, I can't remember what the name of it is having a tournament on Hiram Lake, and I'm actually going to go and either going to visit there at their weigh-in, or I'm going to go, or their award ceremony, or I'm going to fish that tournament. I haven't decided yet. So if anybody's got a bona fide 127 that they can loan me, I'll fish it. So that'd be cool. Oh, goodness. Mikey and Fluke video or Bama video. You know what? I'm going to take a picture of your comment, and it's going to remind me to text Mikey. Matter of fact, I'll send him the picture because I keep forgetting to call him. So I'll do that right now. But anyway, let me find Mikey. There he is right there. Take that picture and text it to him. When we going? Done. All right, sorry. How does the KBF award points in the state challenge series? I live in Southeast Missouri, and a 4.5 pound bass is a monster. It's your state. In the challenge series, it's all about your state. So it's you fishing against other people in your state. drive 3 hours away, and it's an average one. Yeah, it all depends. It's just your state. But let me think. Let me look at the next one. Fishing Joe, do you use a D-bomb missile bait right now? And is there a specific soft plastic that you use on the summer? I use large worms, usually ribbon tails or straight tail worms, but I tend to use anything from 7 to 11 inches. I'll even use a 16 if I think I can get away with it. But I'm always using worms. I get away from creature baits. They still work when I'm fishing cover. When I'm fishing trees and grass, I'll still use a creature bait. But if I'm offshore, if I'm fishing, most of my fishing is done with a worm, is basically what it is. So let's see. Dave Raznick. Hey guys, be sure to hit the thumbs up. I always forget to tell you guys that. The more thumbs up I get, people get to find my videos and find this and find my Friday Night Lives. Getting back into fishing after 15 years, going from boater to kayak for the first time. I am pumped. That's awesome. Going with a Blue Sky 360. Oh, I'm jealous. Then in January, getting a bona fide or a native. Just got my Tarova shaft cut. Oh goodness. Yeah. You're gonna love that Blue Sky, man. They were still prototyping it when they were developing it. I was with Jackson. I was on the Jackson Pro team, and I got to give them a bunch of, you know me, I'm not gonna hold anything back anyway, but give them a bunch of suggestions and stuff like that. They pretty much had it already nailed. It's a great boat. It really is. I don't consider it a kayak personally, but I know that everybody else does. So, because I used to fish in a pontoon little type deal like that. It just kind of reminded me of that. So I picked up the Muse Black 7.6 medium heavy moderate. I currently use it for whopper plopper. Is there a better use for that size rod? Deep diving crankbaits, medium diving crankbaits that go, 8 to 10 feet deep, 12 feet deep. Spinner baits, buzz baits, chatter baits. Anything that has an open hook that's good sized is kind of big square bills, but I don't fish those much. So, hey, Gene, would you say Jacksonville and Tampa fish the same throughout the year? No. Nope. You can follow, and the reason I say that is you can follow the spawn from South Florida all the way up to North Florida, and the spawn in South Florida starts in December. And it works its way up. In January, it's mid, Tampa, stuff like that. February, maybe into March, then you get Jacksonville, you get, spawn up in there. So it's kind of a cycle. You see it working. One of these years hopefully when somebody pays me $1 billion, I'm going to start down in the bottom of Florida, and I'm going to fish the spawn from Florida all the way up to Wisconsin or Minnesota. So it'd be a lot of fun. Carl says, if you had to go bare bones and only had 3 combos for bass fishing, what would they be? I'm a broke college student, mainly fishing. I've actually made a couple videos about that, not with the same subject of being broke and not with the same subject of being bare bones, but the 3 rods: a medium spinning rod, a medium bait caster, medium fast action, and a medium heavy fast action bait caster would be my 3 rods. You can fish a whole bunch of moving baits like crankbaits, buzz baits, spinner baits, that kind of stuff on a medium fast action bait caster just fine. You may lose a few more fish than you would with a moderate action, but you would do just fine. And with the spinning rod, then you can get your finesse techniques and your medium heavy fast action. There's your jigs, your crankbaits, your jigs, Texas rigs, Carolina rigs, that kind of stuff, and you're all set, man. So that's what I carry when I'm bank fishing. That's it. Those 3 rods. Let's see. Have you been seeing the bait drops Mr. Mike Buca has been doing this week on his website? I have not. I need to take a look at it. He usually tells me when he's going to do stuff like that, but I have not seen it. Because I've known Mike for a lot of years, many, many years. So he doesn't let me pay for a bull shad, and I don't ask for very many of them, but he refuses to let me pay for them. So I love that man to death. Any advice for fishing 5-acre rock quarry lake? That's 160 feet 160 feet deep, filled with milfoil. Holy crap! I'd love to fish that. Let me think. I always think a drop shot. If they're really, and it all depends on where they're at, really. Most of the time on bluff walls, I've never fished a rock quarry, but in bluff walls, they'll be at a specific depth. And I'll throw a drop shot at a lot of times and figure out what depth I get bit at. And then I stay at that depth all the way along the bluff wall. And that's kind of what that's like. Man, I need to fish a rock quarry. That would be really, really cool. I'd probably pull my hair out for the first few days trying to figure them out. Have you ever fished the free rig? I have not. It's a Texas rig with a cylindrical drop shot weight with closed loop on the weight, so it moves freely up and down the line. I have not fished it that way. Huh. Wonder what that would do. That's pretty cool. Dave Rasnick, since you're in with Bonafide, do you have or know since the merger with Native if they're thinking about pedal drive? I don't know. I stopped asking that question. I asked it twice, and Luther gave me the same answer both times, and I stopped asking that question. So I don't know, man. He released the old style HD bull shads the first week. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I've got an HD custom painted that's in my box. I was gonna fish it today and I forgot to. What's up, Fluke? What do you suggest tossing for a super open reservoir with little to almost no cover? I'm bank fishing in California on the water. Oh, the water level's very low. Zachary, go get it. Since the water level's low, you can see where these points are. They're going to be out of the water, but they're going to be going down into the water. Go find one of those points and fish the water. You know, of course, fish the part that the water's in. But Carolina rig is the first thing that came to my mind, and that's what I would fish it. Especially, I used to fish Clarks Hill Lake. Out in the middle of Clarks Hill, there's nothing. No grass, no nothing. They're all out there chasing blueback herring. And I would get on the end of a point with a Carolina rig, and I'd just drag it and fan cast all along that point with a Carolina rig. And if there's fish there, you'll catch them. You'll catch one or two of them, and then you can like switch to a Texas rig or something like that. Give them a couple different looks. So, what do you do when it's raining a lot and hot and humid? It's getting hot here in Georgia. Yes, it is, and it rained on me today twice. Hey man, we're members in the same stake as your brother. That's awesome. Yep, Eric and I are going fishing, taking Dylan fishing next week. That's awesome, man. Yeah, what I would do is biggest thing is just stay comfortable. Wear clothes that dry fast. And I got soaking wet today, but I did have a rain jacket on. But as long as there's no thunder and lightning, it doesn't usually mess up the bite. It usually makes it even better. And if it's a cool rain and it rains overnight, they're going to be up really shallow in the morning, and they'll stay shallow longer. But the biggest thing is keep yourself comfortable, and nothing worse than being miserable fishing. So Kurt, Wismuller, is that how you pronounce it? I've learned a ton watching your videos. Keep them coming. Any suggestions for a moderately priced flipping and frogging rod? The Fate Black frog rod should be going on sale because they're coming out with a new Fate, what do they call it? The V3. And so watch Tackle Warehouse. And if you're going to shop on Tackle Warehouse, there's my shameless plug. Click on my affiliate link down at the bottom of all my videos and go shopping, and I get a little percentage. So, and it helps pay the bills. But actually, the what I get from Tackle Warehouse, when they send me a check every quarter, it helps replace camera equipment. It's what it does. Oh, because I break them. So, Austin Reynolds, go Dogs. Is there any way I could fish a jig with a a lot of action trailer? Yes. He's talking about a jig with a lot of, or the trailer with a lot of action. Yes, that's what I do all summer long, is you fish one that has, with a trailer that has a lot of chop to it. In the wintertime, I don't want any action, but in the summertime, I do. Whoo, let's see. There's a really, I love this question when it pops up. Shad Schaefer says, how quickly do you change presentations or move spots in your kayak if the bite is tough? For me, it's all about confidence, whether the bite's tough or whether it's really easy. The minute I lose confidence, I change. And this is something that doesn't come naturally to most people. You've got to get to the point where you can recognize it and then quickly decide you're going to change. And oh, I'm going to give it a few more casts. Oh, I want to get, let me stay a little bit longer. No, as soon as you lose confidence in a bait, change the bait. As soon as you lose confidence in the spot, change your spots, and you will catch a lot more fish. Guaranteed. And like I said, it took me a long time to get to that point to where it clicks in my head almost instantly now. So any tips on Guntersville? Going there next week and haven't been there. I haven't been there since January, so I have no clue what going on in Guntersville. It's going to have grass. It's going to have hydrilla and eelgrass and fish the outside edges of the grass is all I can tell you. I'm not going to get on Guntersville probably until September. So I got to get ready for the KBF National Championship that's happening in October. So, have you ever fished Toledo Bend? I have not. It's on my bucket list, and I haven't done it. Let's see. When fishing a weedless neg rig, how should you position the wire so it doesn't affect your hook set? I cut the stinking thing off is what I do. Seriously, Carl. I'm sorry, but that stinking wire always gets in the way. It seems to always get in the way of the hook set. And you can tell when you do catch a fish on it, that wire is crushed. And so the best way, if you want to keep it, is split it as far out to the side as you can stand. So probably at an angle like this, 45 degrees, that's 90. So probably about a 45-degree angle. But man, I usually just cut it off and just deal with getting snagged and breaking off and having to tie on another one. I know this isn't bass related fishing. Any tips to trigger a bite for a gar? Because I never caught one before. They just passed by my baits with no look at sight fishing. The only time I've ever caught a gar on an actual hook was I got a backlash fishing a weightless fluke, and it took me forever to get it out. And I picked up the rod, and the fluke was on the fish was already on the fluke, and I set the hook, and I didn't know what it was. Gar are hard to catch. There's some videos on YouTube where they use cotton rope, pieces of cotton rope that they frayed, and it gets the teeth of the gar all wrapped up in it. And then you got to have a special tool that you build out of wood that you be able to hold the fish, and so you can pick the cotton out to be able to release the fish. But it's a cool way of fishing. That'd be a cool thing to go look up too. Catching gar with rope. Oh goodness. Big Red Bass. Congrats on the big old Alumacraft billboard. Guys, I'm on a billboard in Dallas, Texas. Unbelievable. Goodness. But yeah, somewhere in Dallas, Fort Worth, there's a billboard of me standing on the front of a Alumacraft boat. I think it's pretty cool. I saw that picture. One of my fans sent it to me, and I went to my wife. I said, I guess I've arrived. Says, I'm in South Carolina. Any idea what to be throwing right now? I would throw, you got a choice. If it's cloudy, you can throw spinnerbait, a crankbait, maybe a chatterbait. If it's not cloudy, if it's sunny and the bass are a little bit deeper, Carolina rig, Texas rig, any kind of a worm. I don't know what part of South Carolina you're in, but anywhere along the Savannah River part, we are always throwing tequila sunrise and green pumpkin with the tail dipped in chartreuse. JJ's Magic is what we throw a lot. What are you saying? You never had a camera you could not break? Never had a camera I couldn't break. Goodness, I got a buddy of mine that's out west, and he's on a mission trip, and he needs a camera, and I'm digging trying to find one I haven't broken that I don't use. It's the hardest thing. I saw you the other day you were in your truck. That's awesome, Montana. Yep, I live right here in Rome, so it's probably where you saw me, unless I was driving down to Academy Sports. What is the best bait for a small grassy pond? Small grassy pond. Uh, the biggest thing is think lightweight. If you got a grass, and I'm guessing there's grass on the bottom, lightweight to be able to fish it on top of that grass. A Ned rig, a split shot rig is a little cool little thing that you fish with a worm with a split shot weight about 6 to 8 inches above it, pinched on there. But those are what I would fish. Jeremy says, been fishing the last 3 weekends. It's becoming an addiction. You telling me, man? I'm still addicted to it. So let's see. Gar love topwater. They always after my crankbaits. I have lost some chatterbaits to Gar, matter of fact. So any advice for a new fisherman fishing from a kayak? Get an anchor. Literally figure out how you want to rig your anchor and get an anchor. It's critical. Because wind just kills you. You make one cast and you're on a spot, and then the wind blows you off the spot. So anchor down. Always wear your PFD. Don't fish without it. Always have it on you. I love the little public fishing area that's right up my road. The DNR comes out every other day or so and runs around and checks, makes sure everybody in the kayaks have their PFD on, because that kayak gets away from you really, really quick once you fall out, and you just never know. It's just, and it's not that you're going to knock your head and knock yourself out. You just can't get back to your kayak. That's the biggest thing. But yeah, and just go have fun, man. You're out on the water floating around. It's a blast. Wacky rig changed my life. Love you, Fluke. But it's the truth, man. Don't get me fishing a fluke yet. I'm not ready, or a Cinco yet. I'm not ready yet. Have you ever caught pike? And do they ever get down south? Down here we have what's called a chain pickerel, which is a southern pike. They don't get very big. They're marked different, but they're basically the same shape, got teeth and everything else. I have caught pike up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We fish frogs, and we fish a little short steel leader right in front of the frog just to keep from losing too many frogs. And I've caught a lot of pike doing that. So how would you break down a new northern Wisconsin lake early September? Don't have any graphs, just a depth finder. There's smallmouth on the lake early September. A lot of times that's about when the smallmouth start to move shallow. The bass will be in the grass. I haven't fished very many Wisconsin lakes that didn't have quite a bit of grass in them. The bass are going to be in the grass. Look for deeper spots of that grass, and they'll be in those deeper spots. Oh, goodness. Y'all are going crazy about this gar. That's awesome. What should you do with a rod if you catch a fish on it with your first cast? Burn it? I know that's my only superstition. No, golly, so many times I've caught a fish on my first cast and not caught a fish the rest of the day. But I wouldn't burn it. I just literally, probably what I should do is go home. Oh, goodness. DM Outdoors, just want to say hi, and it's good to see you live. Been working 12-hour days. Man, I used to work 15-hour days, man. I know what you're going through. My schedule at the hospital was I'd go to work at 9 o'clock at night on Friday night, work a 10-hour shift, go home, sleep for 8 hours, go back, work for 15, go home on Sunday, go to church, come back, sleep for 4 hours, and go back to work for another 15 and get off Monday morning. So I worked a 10 and 2 15s. It was crazy. Do you have any smallmouth spawn tips? I'm going fishing up northern Minnesota this weekend. I don't. Hold on, I'm going to look up Ben Nowak's new channel, and I'm going to tell you what the name of it is. Let me look. I think it's called Smallmouth Experience. Yeah, the Smallmouth Experience. Look it up. Matter of fact, right now, I think if you go look at Alex Rudd's, I'm going to get off here in just a second. Alex Rudd and Ben Nowak are fishing together this weekend. I bet you Alex's live Friday Night Live is going on right now, and him and Ben are there. You can go ask Ben that question. He is the smallmouth guru, man. Ben Nowak knows he seems to know everything about smallmouth, so it's awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off. It has been an hour. I really, really appreciate everybody who donated. I appreciate everybody who asked questions. I'm sorry if I didn't see them all and I didn't get to them all. It's so much fun doing these. I love it. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. Get out there and go do some fishing. Be safe. I know the COVID thing is winding down. I think personally, my personal thoughts, it was a serious thing to start with. It ain't that serious anymore. I think right now it has become a political thing, and I hate politics. I hate politicians, and I really think that they've turned it into a political bullcrap. So stay safe out there, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go ahead and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.